My family used to call me the thrift store girl. They said it like a diagnosis, like something that needed to be cured. At Easter, my sister found out I had $9 million and demanded I give it to her. I laughed in her face. And when they slammed the door on me, they thought they were punishing me. They had no idea they were setting me free. My name is Jennifer Hayes, and for most of my life, I was the family embarrassment, the afterthought, the discount version of my sister Victoria, who got the looks, the charm, the spotlight, and according to my mother, the future. I got hand-me-downs and lectures about being realistic. The nickname started when I was 14. Victoria needed a homecoming dress, something sparkly, expensive, unforgettable. Mom took her to Nordstrom. $300 later, Victoria had a gown she wore once and posted in 17 angles on Facebook. I got dropped off at Goodwill with $40 and told to be practical. I found a vintage leather jacket for $12, real leather, perfect condition. I thought it was treasure. I wore it to school feeling proud until I got home and heard Victoria laughing with her friends. "Look, everyone," she announced loudly. "It's the thrift store girl. Did you get a good deal on those sad little second-hand dreams?" They laughed. Mom didn't defend me. Dad was on another business trip. And just like that, the name stuck. Birthdays, holidays, random Tuesdays. Whenever Victoria needed to feel bigger, she shrank me. So I grew thick skin. While she joined sororities and posted beach photos from USC, I worked 2 jobs and went to community college. I lived in a studio apartment that smelled like curry from the restaurant downstairs. I ate ramen. I learned to sew my own clothes. Every dollar mattered because no one was giving me anything. My parents paid for Victoria's full education. When I asked for help with one semester, Dad said, "Struggle builds character." Apparently, only my character needed building. I majored in computer science, not because it sounded glamorous, but because I was good at it, and good meant employable. While other students partied, I coded. I built websites for small businesses, apps for startups, tools no one saw but everyone used. I graduated with honors, no debt. It felt like winning a war no one knew I was fighting. My first job was at a startup in Austin. The pay wasn't flashy, but for the first time, I could breathe without checking my bank balance every 5 minutes. I rented a small 1-bedroom apartment and bought new clothes, my first not secondhand wardrobe ever. I sent a picture to the family group chat. Victoria replied, "Cute. I guess thrift store furniture is trending again." It stung, just less than before. Austin became my escape. There, I was the other daughter. I was Jennifer, the developer who delivered clean code and fixed impossible bugs. I made friends who liked my dry humor and didn't know my family history. And at that startup, I met Brian. Brian was a co-founder, brilliant, socially awkward, obsessed with building security software that could change how the world protected data. He saw something in me. Within a year, I led a team. Within 2, I was his right hand. He had the big ideas. I made them real. We worked 80-hour weeks, lived on caffeine and stubbornness. Slowly, contracts grew. Small companies became big ones. Then giants started calling. The first time a Fortune 500 company licensed our software, Brian and I celebrated at a dive bar that smelled like spilled beer and old wood. We toasted with cheap whiskey. "We actually did it," he said. I smiled. "Yeah, my family still thinks I fix printers." As the company grew, so did my equity. When ownership was finalized, Brian had 40%. So did I. I didn't tell my family. Why would I? Every success I mentioned got buried under Victoria's engagement photos or kitchen renovation updates. Offers to buy us started coming in. 15 million. 25. 35. We said no. Our CFO finally told us, "You're not selling software. You're selling the future. Price it like it." Then came the offer. $85 million. Brian called me at 11:07 p.m., voice shaking. This is it. My share, after everything, taxes and payouts and fees. $9 million. I sat on my apartment floor and stared at the wall. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just breathed. I was rich before 27. And nobody in my family knew. I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't post about it. I invested. I donated. I bought a beautiful condo. Quiet luxury. Quiet peace. The money felt like armor. Then Easter came. Mom insisted I come to dinner. I almost said no. But part of me wanted to sit at that table knowing something they didn't. Not for revenge, just perspective. I wore a tailored blouse, drove my new car, and brought a store-bought pie. Victoria opened the door, looked me up and down, and said, "You look different." Dinner was the usual, Victoria talking, everyone listening, me background noise. Then my phone rang, my financial advisor. I stepped outside to answer. 5 minutes. That's all it took. When I came back in, Victoria was holding my purse, a paper in her hand, her face pale. "Your wallet fell out," she said slowly. "This fell with it." She held up my portfolio statement. $9 million. The room went silent. Mom's plate clattered. Dad stood up. Chad leaned forward like he smelled money. "Is this real?" Victoria whispered. "Yes," I said calmly. "It is." Shock turned into calculation in seconds. Then came the pitch. Chad's dealership was failing. Loans, debt, the house at risk. $500,000 would save everything, Victoria said. "It's nothing to you." Nothing to me. 500,000 was years of ramen, years of exhaustion, years of being invisible. I said one word. No. The meltdown was immediate. Selfish, bitter, ungrateful, family helps family. I laughed. Where was family when I needed textbooks? When I worked double shifts? When I cried in a studio apartment alone? Victoria grabbed my arm, suddenly apologizing for everything she'd ever done, but only because she needed something. I pulled away. "I'm not your bailout. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the thrift store girl anymore." Dad said if I walked out, I wasn't welcome back. I looked at them, really looked. "You chose her my whole life," I said. "I'm just choosing me." They slammed the door behind me. I stood there expecting to feel heartbreak. Instead, I felt light. They tried everything afterward. Emails, calls, fake accounts, even a legal threat claiming I owed family support. My lawyer responded with a cease and desist and a formal notice of harassment. It ended fast after that. They lost the house, downsized. Victoria got a retail job. The Instagram perfection faded. I didn't celebrate. I just moved on. I funded scholarships for girls in tech, invested in overlooked founders, built a life that felt honest, quiet, real. I went to therapy, learned I'd been chasing love that was never offered freely. The money didn't fix me, but walking away started too. I still have that leather jacket. Still fits. Only now, when I wear it, I don't see a poor girl pretending. I see a survivor who saw value where others saw trash. The thrift store girl became a millionaire. But more importantly, she became someone who knew her worth. And when the people who ignored her finally noticed, she smiled and said no. A few months after Easter, I thought the storm had passed. It hadn't. Success has a smell, and desperation can track it from miles away. The first sign was a certified letter from a law firm in California. My name typed neatly across the front like we were old friends. Inside was a formal request, not from my parents, not from Victoria, but from Chad. He was claiming I had made verbal promises of financial support during Easter dinner. He stated that they had made financial decisions based on the expectation of family assistance. I actually blinked at the page. They were trying to manufacture a legal obligation. I forwarded the letter to my attorney with one line. "Is this a joke?" It was, but it was weak. My lawyer called me that afternoon, calm and mildly amused. They have no case, no written agreement, no transfer, no reliance they can prove. This is intimidation dressed up as paperwork. What happens now? I asked. We respond once, firmly. Then if they continue, we escalate. Escalate. For most of my life, that word meant getting in trouble. Now it meant protection. My lawyer sent a formal reply denying every claim and warning that further harassment would result in legal action. 2 weeks later, another letter came, this one nastier. Accusations that I had emotionally manipulated them, that I had used wealth to cause distress. I almost laughed again. My lawyer didn't. That was when we filed for a harassment and defamation notice. Official, documented, delivered. The letters stopped. But the silence didn't. A former neighbor from my parents' street messaged me on Facebook one night. We hadn't spoken in years. Hey Jennifer, I don't want to get involved, but your mom has been telling people you abandoned the family after getting rich. Just thought you should know. I stared at the message for a long time. Same script, different audience. For a moment, old guilt tried to creep back in. That familiar tug, maybe I should explain, maybe I should defend myself. Then I realized something. People who believe lies, without asking, you don't actually want the truth. So I did nothing. And life kept getting better. I joined the board of a nonprofit that funded tech education for girls from low-income families. The first time I met a scholarship student, a shy 17-year-old who coded on a borrowed laptop, I saw myself at that age. She showed me an app she built to help her mom track work shifts. It's not very good yet, she said nervously. It's brilliant, I told her. You built a solution to a real problem, that's what matters. Her smile stayed with me for days. That was the return on investment I cared about. Meanwhile, Victoria's life kept leaking into my periphery through other people. A cousin mentioned she'd started selling empowerment coaching online. A friend from high school sent me a screenshot of a vague Instagram post about toxic people who choose money over family. I didn't respond. I didn't defend. Silence is powerful when you're no longer trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. Then, almost a year after Easter, something unexpected happened. Dad emailed. Not an attack, not a demand. Just 6 words in the subject line. Can we talk, just us? I didn't answer for 3 days. When I finally did, it was short, neutral, public place only. We met at a cafe halfway between the airport and nowhere sentimental. He looked older, smaller somehow. For a while we just stirred coffee. I didn't know, he finally said, about how bad it was for you growing up. I held his gaze. You didn't ask. He nodded slowly, like that truth physically hurt. I thought pushing you made you stronger. It did, I said, but not in the way you think. We talked for an hour. He didn't ask for money, not once. He didn't defend Victoria, didn't excuse Mom. He just listened. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was the first honest conversation we'd ever had. When we stood to leave, he said, I'm proud of you, not because of the money, because you built a life on your own terms. I believed him. That was enough. I didn't suddenly rejoin holidays. I didn't unblock everyone. Boundaries stayed. But something shifted inside me that day. Closure doesn't always come with apologies from everyone. Sometimes it comes from one person choosing to finally see you. That night, I went home, put on my old leather jacket, and sat on my porch watching the sunset. I thought about 14-year-old me, clutching $12 treasure like it proved something. She had no idea she was building more than style. She was building resilience, vision, independence. She was building me. And the funny thing is, if I could go back, I wouldn't trade places with Victoria. Not for the dresses. Not for the spotlight. Not even for the easy love. Because easy love made her weak. Hard roads made me unstoppable. The cafe meeting with Dad, didn't magically fix everything. But it changed the temperature of the past. We didn't start calling every week. We didn't suddenly become the picture of reconciliation. What we had was quieter than that: occasional emails, short updates, careful honesty. He told me he'd started therapy. I didn't say, "Good." I said, "I'm glad." Mom never reached out directly. Pride is a stubborn thing. Victoria tried once more. A long message. No requests for money this time. Just stories about how hard things had been, how losing the house changed her, how working retail made her see people differently now. She said she understood me better. I believed she understood struggle. I didn't believe she understood me. Growth that comes from losing comfort isn't the same as growth that comes from gaining empathy. I wished her well. I didn't reopen the door. Life moved forward the way it does, when you stop dragging the past behind you like a suitcase with broken wheels. I started mentoring founders, the scrappy, overlooked ones investors usually pass on. A single mom building payroll software for small salons. A first-generation college grad designing cybersecurity tools for rural hospitals. People with talent but no connections. I saw myself in all of them. Not the money part. The hunger part. One afternoon, after a pitch session, a young woman stopped me in the hallway. She had thrift store jeans, nervous eyes, and a laptop covered in stickers. "Can I ask you something kind of personal?" she said. "Sure." "How did you stop needing your family to be proud of you?" The question hit deeper than any investor pitch ever had. I thought about Easter, about the slammed door, about therapy, about the years I'd spent trying to earn applause from people who had already decided not to clap. "You don't stop all at once," I told her. "You just start building a life that feels good even if nobody's watching. One day you look up and realize their opinion isn't the oxygen anymore." She nodded like she was trying to memorize that. Maybe someone had told me that once. Maybe it would have saved me years. That night, I told my partner about the conversation while we cooked dinner. He listened the way he always did, fully, quietly, like my words mattered. "You know," he said, "your story isn't really about money." "I know," I said. "It's about permission." He was right. Permission to walk away. Permission to succeed without shrinking. Permission to keep love that's healthy and release love that hurts. On the second anniversary of Easter, I did something I never would have done before. I hosted dinner. Not for family by blood, for family by choice. Friends from work, 2 founders I'd mentored, my partner, even the scholarship student, now a freshman studying computer science on a full ride. We ate at a long table in my dining room, laughed too loud, talked about ideas and failures and dreams. At one point, I looked around and felt something settle deep in my chest. This was what I'd been trying to earn my whole life. Not approval. Belonging. And it turned out, belonging isn't granted by the people who raised you. It's built with the people who see you clearly and stay anyway. Later that night, after everyone left and the house was quiet, I stood in the hallway outside my bedroom. The same kind of quiet hallway I once walked through at my parents' house, small, tense, trying not to take up space. Only this time, the quiet felt different. It felt earned. I caught my reflection in the mirror. No designer dress, no spotlight. Just me. The thrift store girl. The engineer. The investor. The woman who learned that love without respect isn't love at all. I turned off the lights and headed to bed, knowing tomorrow I'd wake up to a life I chose, not one I was trying to survive. And that will always be worth more than $9 million. If this journey meant something to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more stories about strength, self-worth, and building a life on your own terms. Years passed in a way they never used to. Not in survival mode. Not in countdowns to the next crisis. But in seasons. Seasons of work I cared about. Seasons of rest without guilt. Seasons of building instead of proving. The scholarships grew into a foundation. What started as a few tuition checks turned into mentorship programs, internship pipelines, partnerships with companies willing to take chances on unconventional candidates. Every time I sat across from a young woman who said, "I didn't think someone like me could do this," I saw a ghost of my old self, standing in a thrift store aisle, hopping $12 could turn into dignity. I made sure they didn't just get money. They got support. They got introductions. They got someone in the room who said, "She's ready," before anyone could doubt them. And slowly, quietly, my name started showing up in places my family would have once bragged about if they'd understood. Panels, articles, tech conferences. The self-made founder. The engineer who exited before 30. The investor backing overlooked talent. Funny how the world that once ignored me now wanted my perspective. I didn't let it go to my head, because I knew exactly how invisible a person can feel while still being capable of extraordinary things. One afternoon, after a keynote at a Women in Tech summit, I stepped off stage and nearly collided with someone waiting near the curtain. Victoria. For a second, my brain couldn't place her outside the frame of our parents' house. She looked older, not worse, just real, less polished, less curated. We stared at each other. "I didn't know you'd be here," she said. "I'm speaking," I replied gently. "I know," I saw the schedule. There was an awkward silence. No cameras, no audience, no performance. "I've been working at a community center," she said finally, "helping moms get job training, computer basics and stuff." I nodded. "That's good work." She swallowed. "I used to think you were just lucky or cold. I didn't understand how much you carried." I didn't rush to fill the space. Some truths need air around them. "I'm not here to ask you for anything," she added quickly. "I just wanted to say I was wrong about you for a long time." It wasn't dramatic. No tears, no hug. Just an acknowledgement. And surprisingly, that was enough. "Thank you for saying that," I told her. "I hope things keep getting better for you." We didn't exchange numbers. We didn't promise coffee. We just parted like two people who shared a past, but not a future. And it felt peaceful. That night in my hotel room, I thought about how badly I once wanted that moment, for her to see me, to admit it. When it finally came, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like closure. Forgiveness, I'd learned, isn't always reconciliation. Sometimes it's just setting down the weight, so you don't have to carry it anymore. I still live in my grandmother's house, still wear the leather jacket some weekends. The lining is frayed now, the sleeves creased with time. I could replace it 100 times over. But I don't, because it reminds me of the girl who learned to recognize value where others didn't bother to look. She thought she was behind in life. She was actually building the exact muscles she'd need to rise. Every late night, every ignored achievement, every joke at her expense. They didn't break her. They trained her. If I could talk to her now, that 14-year-old standing in Goodwill, counting crumpled bills, I wouldn't tell her she'd be rich. I'd tell her something better. You're not less, you're just early in your story. The world measures worth with noise. Money, status, applause. But real worth is quieter. It's the ability to walk away from what hurts. To build what didn't exist for you. To become someone your younger self would feel safe with. That's the real success. The money was just a side effect. The thrift store girl didn't become powerful when she made millions. She became powerful the day she realized she didn't need permission to matter. And once you learn that, no one can ever make you feel small again. If this story stayed with you, hit like, subscribe, and stick around for more journeys about resilience, growth, and the quiet power of choosing yourself. I thought my story had settled into its final shape. Peaceful, stable, earned. But life has a way of adding one last chapter when you least expect it. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday. I was at home, working from the dining table, sunlight coming through the windows, coffee going cold beside my laptop. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. Something made me answer. Jennifer, the voice was older, softer than I remembered. It's Mom. I hadn't heard her voice in years. For a second, I was 12 again, waiting in a kitchen doorway to see if she'd notice I was there. Yes, I said calmly. She didn't jump into guilt or drama. No speeches, no emotional ambush. I'm not calling to ask you for anything, she said. Your father is in the hospital, heart. He's stable, but it scared him. And me. Silence stretched between us. You don't have to come, she added quickly. I just thought you should know. That was new. Information without obligation. I'll think about it, I said. And I did. All afternoon, memories rose and fell like waves. Dad teaching me how to ride a bike. Dad missing my science fair. Dad clapping the loudest at Victoria's dance recital. Dad saying he was proud of me in that cafe. People are rarely all good or all bad. They're complicated. By evening, I had a plane ticket. The hospital room was smaller than I expected. Dad looked fragile. Tubes, machines, the illusion of parental invincibility gone. When he saw me, his eyes filled. Hey, kiddo, he said, voice rough. I pulled a chair close to the bed. We didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about Easter. We talked about the garden he never finished planting, about a book he was reading, about how weird hospital pudding tastes. Normal things. Human things. At one point, he looked at me and said quietly, I was harder on you because I thought you didn't need protecting. I held his gaze. I needed loving, same as anyone. He nodded, tears slipping into his hairline. I see that now. That didn't erase the past, but it acknowledged it. And sometimes, acknowledgement is the only apology some people know how to give. I visited twice more before flying home. I didn't step back into family life. I didn't promise holidays or weekly calls. But I left with something lighter in my chest. Not reconciliation. Resolution. A few weeks later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. From Mom. She wrote about therapy, about realizing how much she'd measured love in convenience, praising the child who made her look successful, overlooking the one who quietly endured. I thought you were strong enough not to need softness, she wrote. I was wrong, I'm sorry. I cried when I read that. Not because it fixed everything, but because it was real. I wrote back. Short, honest, kind but boundaried. Healing doesn't always mean returning. Sometimes it just means the wound stops bleeding when you think about it. Years ago, I walked away from that house feeling lighter than air. Now I understand why. I wasn't just leaving people behind. I was leaving behind the version of me that believed love had to be earned through suffering. The thrift store girl thought value came from proving people wrong. The woman I am now knows value exists whether anyone claps or not. I still fund scholarships, still invest in quiet brilliance, still sit at my long dinner table, surrounded by people who choose to be there. But now, when I think about my family, it's without the sharp edges. Distance doesn't always mean anger. Sometimes it just means peace lives somewhere else. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt like the extra piece in your own family, the overlooked one, the underestimated one, the one who had to build everything alone, hear me clearly. You are not behind. You are not less. You are not wrong for wanting more than survival. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't holding a family together. It's stepping out of the role that's breaking you. Build the life that fits you. Love the people who love you back. Measure your worth by the kindness you give yourself when no one is watching. The door that slammed behind me, that Easter didn't end my story. It started it. And I wouldn't go back for anything. If this story meant something to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more stories about strength, healing, and the power of choosing your own path. I didn't expect anything else to change after that. Life felt complete, not perfect, not storybook, but whole. Until the email arrived. Subject line, legal notice, estate inquiry. I almost deleted it thinking it was spam, but the law firm name was real, recognizable, local to my parents' town. I opened it. My father had passed away 2 weeks earlier. The words didn't hit like a lightning strike. They settled slowly, like snow you don't notice until the ground is covered. There was a will, and my presence was requested for the reading. I sat back in my chair for a long time, staring at the screen. We hadn't rebuilt a relationship. We hadn't had a final movie scene goodbye. But we had spoken. We had acknowledged things. That would have to be enough. The office smelled like old paper and coffee. Victoria was already there when I walked in. She stood when she saw me, eyes red but steady. "I'm glad you came," she said softly. I nodded. Me too. Mom looked smaller than I remembered. Grief does that, sands down the sharp edges of a person. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and began. Most of it was standard. The house to Mom, savings split, personal items listed with careful detail. Then he paused. "There is an additional clause," he said. "A separate instruction written 6 months ago." Victoria glanced at me. I felt strangely calm. Mr. Whitmore directed that a sum of $200,000 be transferred into a trust administered by Jennifer Whitmore, to be used at her discretion for educational opportunities for young women from low-income families. The room went still. I didn't speak. "He also included a written statement," the lawyer continued, unfolding a single sheet of paper. "I'll read it exactly as written." He cleared his throat. "Jennifer, I spent too many years believing strength meant needing less. You taught me, too late, that real strength is building for others what you didn't receive yourself. This money won't balance the scales, but I hope it adds weight to the good you're already putting into the world. I am proud of the woman you became without my help. Love, Dad." My vision blurred. Not from the money. From being seen. Victoria reached for my hand under the table and squeezed. For once, there was no competition in the gesture. No comparison, just shared humanity. Outside the office, the air felt different, quieter. "I didn't know he'd done that," Victoria said, "but it sounds like him at the end." "I think he was trying," I replied. She nodded. Me too. That night back home, I sat at my dining table, the same one where friends laughed, where scholarship plans were made, and read his note again. Then I opened my laptop. The trust wouldn't sit untouched. It wouldn't be symbolic. I expanded the foundation. More girls, more cities, more chances. Not in his name. Not in mine. In theirs. Years ago, I thought winning meant standing in a courtroom while someone else lost. Now I understand something better. Real domination isn't about crushing the people who underestimated you. It's about building something so meaningful that their smallness becomes irrelevant. I didn't get revenge. I got impact. I didn't get even. I got free. And in the end, that's the only victory that lasts. If you've ever turned pain into power, silence into strength, and rejection into redirection, you already know. Keep going, keep building, keep choosing yourself. And if this journey stayed with you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and be here for the next story.